So we're eating this chicken, and I'm like, look, bro, you don't want to go to Rikers, so you want to call for curfew. You just want to go to school, bro. Do what you got to do. And he's like, you crazy? If I go to Rikers, I'm going to own the house, all this other bullshit. So I'm like, yo, bro, you weigh 98 pounds. I went to Rikers weighing 98 pounds. I'm telling you, when I look in your eyes, I could tell the difference between someone that's a gangster who has malice and someone who's not. He didn't believe me. So at that point, I kind of broke the rules. I flipped the whole chicken tray in the middle of the chicken spot, and he was scared to death. He's like, yo, what's going on? I'm like, had that been Rikers, that would have been it for you. Had that been Rikers, the way you just responded, your whole life would have changed. My name is Angel Solis. I've done 10 years in prison. I'm 33 years old. I'm a student at Columbia University, and I'm a case manager at a nonprofit organization. So I work with kids that are at-risk youth that are involved in the criminal justice system.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to ask, how are you doing right now? And like, how are you coping during this unprecedented time?
Well, actually, I'm coping pretty well, although I don't like enemies I cannot see. But ultimately, I'm kind of institutionalized, so I kind of like being indoors. I like being indoors. I used to love the outdoors, but after prison, I like just being home. So this is actually great for me. I get to work from home, play PlayStation, write my papers from home. I don't have to deal with anything.
Are you also doing online classes as well?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your personal relationship with education and how that's changed over time?
I came by education through punishment almost, because like I was a bad kid when I was a teenager. So my father would ground me, no more PlayStation, and I would end up reading the only thing in the house. There was the Bible and history books, and I wasn't gonna read the Bible because that's boring. So I read history books, and I ended up loving history, and that ended up opening up everything for me. In fact, my grades started going up in class because I just became an avid reader of history. Then when I went to prison, once again, I was forced to read because there's nothing else to do. And it was through reading that I ended up loving, like I had an insatiable appetite for knowledge. And then I ended up going into a college program, maintained a 4.0 for 3 years, then came out, professors pushed me, they wrote some letters of recommendations, I passed their tests, and I ended up in Columbia University, and here I am.
So what was your favorite class when you were taking classes in prison?
Oh, economics. It was economics that allowed me to, I guess, well, I think this is says more about our society. We tend to buy into the individualistic ethos that is a result of capitalism and our capitalist mode of production. So you never really look outside of yourself. And when you are a street criminal and you just in the hood and all that, you're only thinking about your respect for you, money for you, status for you. And I remember taking this economic class and suddenly starting to see society. I saw society for the first time in an abstract manner and saw my place inside of it. And I didn't like where I was in society, but it was through the mechanisms of economics that I was able to historically trace, why am I poor? Like, what is the history of like how my family migrated here, or Puerto Rico as a colony, imperialism? I started noticing that like people become very fixated with numbers and these unrealistic models that at their very foundation is all about the continued justification of capitalism. There's no point in it where we critique our society. It's just looking at it and we take it as an axiom, as given. But when economics first started, it was called political economy, and it wasn't like that. It was Adam Smith, like the person who wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776, and he just saw a phenomenon around him. The term economist didn't even exist then, and he was just looking at the world, trying to understand how it was changing. But at some point, to trying to justify oneself using mathematics as a language of power, we ended up coming to a world of just raw numbers.
I want to transition to the third part of your introduction, which you talked about mentoring younger at-risk youth.
What's interesting about my job is that I work with at-risk youth who are going to court and whatnot because they've committed some crime, which is interesting because a lot of their crimes is just what teenagers do. But like, being that the police gazes on them when they get caught doing it, they end up in the system. It just so happened that so many of them are just people of color, and it just so happened that so many of them are poor. I got this job not because like I'm this Columbia student. It's the fact that here I am, this poor Bronx male that used to be a criminal, that now has gotten out of prison and now goes to this Ivy League school. Like, I'm a credible messenger to them. They gave me the job because they know kids would see me, and I'm able to code switch. I can at one point be in a college classroom and employ one lexicon and then be in the hood and be like, what's going on, my nigga? Like, it just totally, it's a powerful weapon for the institution. So to some extent, like, my job is partly surveillance because like I gotta check their curfew, I gotta check their school. To some extent, I'm tied to the system in this behavior modification process. But to the other extent, like, I always try to bring them the awareness that I ended up getting in prison through economics that they still do not have. Like, if they could get the awareness before they go to prison, then that could dramatically change their lives. Like, imagine if I became aware before I ever went to prison. So when I look at these kids, I just see all this, you know, potential that can be lost. There's a reason why kids don't go to school. So many of my clients and my client base, they don't go to school because the only place they feel they have power is in the streets, in their little bubble. Because in school, they feel they have no power, they feel they have no future. Ask a kid what he wants to be in the future, walk around the Bronx and ask him. They're gonna look at you like, I didn't even think that far, or I don't know, or I wanna just get a job. But when they talk about getting a job, they're talking about getting a job at Dollar General, a retail store where they'll make minimum wage. Like, they see their parents struggle all their life, bill to bill, paying the rent, never own property, no prospect of escaping that. Imagine how you must feel. You must feel like you're gonna choke, like that's your future. And then you look out in the street and you're seeing all these people living free, no boss, no feeling of tomorrow, of having to wake up and go somewhere where you make your own hours, make your own money. That seems so much more. So you gotta make them, but they gotta believe that education is gonna bring them somewhere.
One discussion that's been kind of all over different educational institutions is banning the box.
Ultimately, like, if you have a felony and you've committed your crime and you've already paid your time, then why is the sentence me having to explain my crime again every time? I'm not the worst thing I've ever done. When a offender re-enters society, right? We want to integrate. If I have to sit here every time to get a job, baking cookies, and explain to you why I sold drugs when I was 13, that's ridiculous. But this is still a part of my sentencing. Just like voting. In some states, you can't vote. As soon as you check that box, you're a felon, it's over. You can't vote. Sooner or later, he'll stop trying to integrate. What you end up doing, you end up creating another offender. Again, he will reoffend because he has no other outlet. He can't get a job, he can't do this. What else is there for him, if not criminality? And the thing about banning the box, if I'm frank, it goes deeper than that. In New York, we banned the box of employment, but the problem with that is that now, because they don't know, they tend to associate criminality with what? Race. So now, because there is no box, then all I got is your race to think of. So you see how it starts causing the oppression just slides to a whole nother thing, but like, it doesn't go away. This oppression is interesting. It invades the subconscious. It is an insidious thing. We're not talking about just a white employer. We're talking about things that become institutionalized within a system. And that means that these institutions re-socialize human beings. We're talking about the Black firm owner, the Hispanic firm owner who looks at the guy with the felony and has that very same operating protocol too. It's not just the white guy who's like, you can't work here, buddy, you got a felony. It's the Black guy too, it's the Hispanic guy, unknowingly perpetuating like that oppression because they buy into the ideology of the system.